That computer can see us.
I like the faraway shots.
It makes me look
Yeah.
better.
Me too.
All right, it is 7:04, and I will order the November 1st. How did that happen? Meeting of the World RFID Board of Education order. If you guys would take a moment to silence your cell phones and/or rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Diagana, will you please call roll?
Malcolm Johnson? Here. Amanda Proctor?
Here.
Nate Stefano?
Here.
Jeremy Scott?
Here.
Michael Will?
Here. We do need to approve this evening's agenda. Do we have any changes or modifications? So with a no,
Move to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Reverend Scott to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Do we have any citizen comments on general, or on agenda items, I'm sorry?
We don't have any citizens here.
We have one. All right. Move on to staff and student celebrations and recognitions. Superintendent Nielsen.
You know, each time I have an opportunity to talk 2 different times at these meetings, it's hard because much of the celebrations are also some of the work that I've engaged in or we've engaged in now for the last 2 weeks. But I'm going to talk about some of these, what I think we're doing as celebrations, and one of which is, I think we've talked in the past about impact teamwork and how do we start to build model teams. And we had our first session with 2 different teams at MES earlier this week. And the way Dr. Krill has structured those teams at MES is it's our kindergarten team with a couple of grade level leaders. So all grades are represented. The grade levels that aren't represented in the kindergarten group are represented with the 5th grade group. So we've got a morning group and an afternoon group. And as such, we've got the whole kindergarten team going through the process. They'll be actually creating themselves as one of the model teams. And the grade level leaders that are there will be observers thinking about how do they take that back to do some of the same work with their own teams. 5th grade the same way. The morning and afternoon trainings Monday went, I thought, incredibly well. The teams are super excited about the work. They were engaged. The learning they took part in, I thought was very powerful. So I'm excited. The next session's in about another week and a half, and they're truly going to go through a formal cycle that I can talk more about as we go through that. But to see us begin to build those model teams at that site is pretty powerful for us as a district. And I look forward to continuing to watch that. We also had a chance over the last couple of weeks to get into classrooms. And when I think about the role of leaders in a district, understanding what's on in classrooms is about as important as any of the work that is done. And over the last couple of weeks, we had a chance to get into early childhood classrooms up at Elwell. And wow, fantastic work being done with our pre-K students up there. And then the following day, we had our principal meeting, and as part of the second principal meeting of the month, we're in walkthroughs. And so all of our principals engaged in walkthroughs at Elwell. So we spent a couple of days in a row with good chunks of time at Elwell, watching what's going on, learning what's going on, and then actually coming together and talking about what are we seeing. And really, what are we seeing our students being asked to do? That's really the crux of what we're trying to learn, right? Is what are we asking kids to do? Because generally in this community, as I've watched in lots of classrooms, our kids are doing what they're asked. Are we asking enough of them? That's a question, right? So that's some of the work we did. So that's, I think, a celebration. Watching our professional leaders engage in that conversation is rich, and they're digging in. And I think it's pretty cool. So I'll sell that. I think this particular space sitting in tonight, having our first real big catering here tonight, since we've been together, we've had a big volleyball tournament here that's bigger than we've ever had before in this building. We had our biggest cheer event we've ever had in this center. We also hosted a group of military academy students that are desiring to interview for military academies in this building this last Saturday. I think it was this last Saturday. It's hard to keep it straight. I also want to celebrate, we were selected for a grant that is going to help us to continue to grow our understanding of, it's going to sound weird, but building out our concussion protocols. So we've worked nationwide, we've worked on concussion protocols, but much of what we learned and worked on has been how to return to play. So when should you go back on a football field or a soccer field? What we haven't done as a society around is return to learn. And there's a lot of evidence and research. So we've been selected as a group that will enhance our current practices with that return to learn mindset. I think that's I think that's exciting work, because I think there's a lot of brain research that goes into that. So it won't just be around concussions. We'll learn deeper some of the brain research that's out there about learning in general, which is pretty exciting. We had a SEAC meeting that happened to coincide with the funeral that was last week. And so there was some work done at SEAC. I think there was some talk about mission vision. But I also want to call out a thank you to our board. I think we've got a card from the family of Linda Young thanking this board for the support and recognition of the contributions of Linda and support in terms of the ceremony. But I also want to say thank you to our staff in the district. We had staff that wanted to go and attend. We had other staff that put pieces. And a special thanks from my lens to Tucker, who was willing to go out to Pioneer Ridge and be another administrator on duty out there, that allowed for that building to feel like it was supported in whatever the needs were. And those situations are always sort of in flux. You don't ever know exactly what it's going to look like until you have. And so having Tucker ready to just to go out and do what he needed to do was powerful for him. So just a thank you to him. Let's see. We had a chance, several of us, Michael, myself, Tammy, Mr. Benson, and Miss Oziah had a chance to attend a fundraiser for Futures this past weekend over in Greeley. And it was a powerful night to see hundreds of thousands of dollars generated right in front of our eyes. That ultimately goes back to students in terms of how to help students from Weld County with certificates and opportunities to go on to life on just high school credits in many different arenas. And then I want to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Kramer. She's had a chance to talk about the meteorite celebration, the 100 years since the meteorite landed in Johnstown, and she had a chance to learn about it. So she's going to share a little with us, and I think we'll learn more as we go through the year. But I think there's some pretty neat things that are planned for that celebration.
Yeah. So good evening, President Wells, members of the board. Did you know that a meteorite landed in Johnstown
Oh, well.
in 1924?
Oh, well.
And
Oh, well.
did you know it was at 4:20
Oh, well.
p.m.? Did you know that there were 27 stones found? And the largest was 60 pounds and was about the size of a basketball. Anyway, there's a big celebration plan. Kathy Hall is leading the meteorite committee from the Historic Society. And so she started this planning with us in the spring. And we have 6 of our 7 schools in the district that met, have representation, either teachers or admin that met recently, and getting the everything set for each school. And Dr. Binzel is coming in to do all these cool things with our schools. Also, a few days theme is I landed in Johnstown. And
Great.
there's
You
going
know,
to be,
should be Elwell.
I landed in LL.
there's going to be a drone show. The play is going to be associated with this. There's a Gem and Rock show. And Dr. Benzel is going to be there as a presenter. So it's a great community event as well as an event to have our schools involved in. So that was just an update. Kathy Hull is working really hard to make that happen for us. It's exciting.
The meteorite landed just about 3/4 of a mile out.
Yeah, that way.
And where was it, Michael?
Yeah.
LL?
So here's the funny thing. I have a cousin who actually
No, you don't.
worked at the Museum of Natural History and did a lot of work on the meteorite. The funny thing is, it's from my dad's side of the family. It's from my mom's side of the family, which is rare because those cousins are few and far between.
In the back of my mind, I'm a little bit worried about all the recognition that maybe we're asking for another meteorite to fall on Johnstown too, in the karma thing, so.
Well, 200 plus people heard and or saw it land.
Well, there was a funeral going on at the time at the cemetery.
Of course there was.
Yeah, that was the story in the paper was about. A lot of the eyewitness were the people who were at the funeral who were like, "What in the world just happened?"
Well, an exciting learning opportunity for our students.
Yes,
We're
absolutely.
excited for that.
And that concludes my celebrations.
All right. Any other celebrations? Okay. The only one I have is and while she's here, maybe she can explain it, Dr. Albert. You might want to step forward. I'm really excited about the partnership that we are forming with Eastern Junior College. It's been a long time coming. We have we have a very vibrant FFA program in this building, and a lot of our FFA students will go get their start at NJC. And so we've talked about this for years and years, like how can we develop some sort of partnership so that we can see happen. Can you explain a little bit more about?
So next year we'll be able to offer animal science. We have not been able to do so in the past because, excuse me, while they have approved our instructor to teach the philosophy portion, they have previously approved the instructor to teach the lab portion. So because of that, had we done that, then the student would have transferred and then it really would have had to take the course over again anyway. So by them now approving the lab, then they can have the credit actually transfer then into their degree program. So yeah, pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So they don't work with very many schools, and we're very fortunate to have such qualified instructor and able to be able to offer that to our kids. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, no, I hope it's a stepping stone to more opportunities.
Yeah.
You're an alumni, right?
I didn't. I want to bring it up in front of everybody, but
Sorry.
I didn't.
I was in the same boat with you on that.
I transferred. Great opportunity.
Yeah. Well, Andy Yost, who is our former educator here, but now works for Workforce Development. He's an NJC graduate, so. Okay, we'll move on to board reports.
We start, but I don't have a lot to report this week other than I've mentioned it before, but I've loved our work sessions at a variety of schools across the district. They're so informative. It really gives me such joy to see how all the schools are contributing to the success of our students. And tonight we're at Roosevelt High School, and we see all the time, but the opportunities for college advancement, for CTE opportunities is staggering and mind-blowing. And it's just been such an honor to be able to see that firsthand in all the schools. So I'm so grateful for that.
I'll report. So I wanted to thank Mr. Balderson for inviting middle school band to the high school football game. My daughter is in 7th grade and she wanted to try instrument. I don't know if it will stick forever, but she's trying, and she was really excited to have the opportunity. We come to games anyways, but she was really excited, and I kind of encouraged her to do it because that was such an interesting opportunity and such a neat way to recruit kids into Camden High School, to invite them to come sit with them and to hang out. And those high schoolers, I sat kind of to the student section so I could see the interaction, and those high schoolers are really great at interacting with middle school kids and helping them, and just, I thought it was great. So I appreciate his efforts of recruiting and doing that. I thought it was a really unique experience that I had to partake in.
That's awesome.
That's all I have.
It was a cold night.
It was so cold.
Sounded cool, night.
It was so cold. But yeah, no, they were great. Those high school kids gave the middle school kids their hand warmers and helped them with music, and it was a good experience. And that was really unique of him to do that as well.
That's great.
Well, I am really excited to hear about that. I didn't know that had happened.
Yeah,
So-
it was fast when it was like on Tuesday, the message went out. If you're interested, or afternoon, if you're interested, let your teacher know Tuesday, and then it would happen Thursday. It happened really fast. But there's a ton of middle school kids from TQE and MMS in that. And it was great, not only for the band recruit, but just to kind of mix those kids together. I thought it was fantastic.
Build the community, and I have to say that's how I got into band in high school.
Oh, is
I
it?
played in band in college because of that. So that's
Nice.
a great way to recruit kids to participate. So I'm glad to hear that's happening. It's been, like we've said, kind of a quiet weeks, which has been nice from a business perspective. I think we all attended the candidate forum. I thought that was a great way to answer some questions from the community and hear from our two candidates that are vying for the one seat. So that was kind of fun to be at. But what I want to celebrate tonight is this building, because we're here. We heard earlier from the staff, the administrative staff here in this building. One of the things that stuck out to me was, and I've been harping on this with us, but CTE is great. We hear about it all. It's wonderful opportunities for our kids, but I think we lose sight sometimes of the college readiness that's happening in this building too. Heard from our administrative staff tonight that 1,000 credits were earned last year from this build, from students that are attending this building, which is up from just on 200.
193.
So that's incredible. Not only are we providing opportunities for those students that want to go on to college later, we are still providing opportunities for the kids that may not go to college, may choose to join the workforce right away. But we're also saving those families who are sending their kids to college a lot of money because they're taking advantage of those opportunities in high school. So I just want to make sure we call that out, because I think as our community hears about the CTE stuff, and we lose sight sometimes that our kids are also being very, very well for college. So the other thing I want to call out in this building is that I'm excited to see over the last 12 weeks or so, and we talked a little bit about it just now, is the sense of community that's developing around this building. Drive by here pretty much any time, and something is happening in this building, whether it's a youth team practicing or a sports team here practicing or an event, community event. We've had breakfasts and dinners and all kinds of things happening in this building, and it is turning into the community hub we wanted it to turn into. Not only are our kids having great opportunities academically, but this building is becoming a real hub for these communities. And that's really, really exciting, and exactly what we had hoped would happen. So anyway, I'm just excited to see that. So that's my. Oh, sorry, one more thing. Go vote if you haven't already. Fill that ballot out the back. But don't send it back. Drop it off, because it's past the deadline to send it back. Go vote. Thank you.
I don't have, I've done much, been pretty quiet on the school board side, which is good. I think just add a little bit to what Superintendent Nelson said. Just thank you to everyone who made it possible for so many of our folks out for Linda's service last week. One thing that I'm struck by, and I'm given the opportunity to be part of celebrating the life of a former educator. One thing you can count on is many people will come out with many stories that most people have never heard of the deep and important impact that that person made. That really seems to hold true across the board. I mean, probably especially so in the case of someone like Linda, who had such a deep impact on the community as well. It is always a reminder to me of the importance of the work that education educators do and how many lives they touch, throughout the course of a career. And I will inevitably hear story after story of how, that person was the person that said the one thing at the one time that person needed to hear. So it's always reminded how important the work we do. I mean, it goes without saying the work of education is important, but when you get to see it on display in such a dramatic way, that number of people coming out with that number of stories to share, and knowing that that's not, it's not unique, that most of our educators who have a career as long as Linda has is going to have a similar number of people with a similar number of stories. So the number of lives impacted by things like this and the work that we do, it is humbling and profound. And that was just one of those opportunities to be humbled by not only a life, but also a career. Careers we everybody know. It was good. And I was glad to see as many of our folks we see come out and celebrate. And my hope for them is that they see their work in the same way, that they really are following the footsteps of people like Linda and our work that she did. I see every bit as dedicated people in our school doing every bit as good work, who will no doubt years down the road be celebrated.
Well, first off, one of the things, it's kind of a celebration, having board reports and celebrations and all kinds of things like that.
Happens when good things are happening.
That's right. So, found out 2 days ago that that corner little shop there is going to be recognized at the TESB convention.
Nice.
Yay.
Yeah. So it's the Achievement Program Award. And then I learned today, because then I got an email from Tess saying, who do we make the check out to? So it's a cash award. And I just said, you can make it out to me and I'll match it to you. It'll come to the district and it's for $1,500.
Wow.
So yeah, that's going to be, so when we're down at the convention, we'll be able to say, you know those kids, I know that place. And it's awesome. Last Friday, we had kind of a hodge of participants in a tour with a woman by the name of Ann Benigio, who is an educational policy analyst for the Independence Institute. And so it was Superintendent Nielsen, Dave Benson, Dr. Albert, and myself took her on a tour of this building, really focusing obviously on the CTE pieces. She had written a publication 3 years ago that they're getting ready to update, talking about PTEC, CTE, work-based learning. Of course, featured in that piece of literature, and I think now we're going to have a top spot in the updated version. Interestingly enough, though, we finished the tour, and the one thing she said, what about the rigorous academic rigor, AP, concurrent enrollment? And thank you, Jeremy Yarrow was just coming out of the office, and I said, there's a guy you should talk to, and why and how we're doing things. So he talked a lot about that. He talked a lot about the coaching that we're doing, and she was really blown away. And I heard back from her again this morning, and again, just really excited about what she saw in this building, and was excited to get out and share it. This Friday, Superintendent Nielsen, Vice President Sassano, and myself are going to be meeting with Matt Cook from CASB to talk about. We're kind of do a 2-hour. It's about a 2-hour quick training on policy governance. I happened to be listening to the CASB podcast 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about policy governance, which is something that we have said we do, but we're probably bringing more on that hybrid model that isn't really a model to be bragging about. And so I wanted the three of us to get together, kind of see this is something we want to do and take it to the next step, which would then be an all-board training provided by CASB. It's all paid for through our dues anyway, so it's no extra money for us. It's just a time commitment. So we will be doing that on Friday, so I'll let you guys know how that all turns out. What a fantastic meal we had here this evening. I think somebody else already mentioned it, but wasn't that good? I mean, it's, and I'm not just not saying that. It was really good. And with the breakfast we had a couple of weeks ago, it was really, really good. I still think about that breakfast.
French toast was really
I mean, it
amazing.
was crazy good, right? Oh, and I don't know if you guys got the notification from Ms. Diagana, but the meeting with the city really for our proposed IGA has been moved back one more week. I shouldn't say one week, because this is the first time they've changed the date, which is kind of good because that actually is the week of the CASB convention and things get kind of crazy. So I'm kind of glad that it's happening the following week. And that is all that I have. So anything else? All right, let's move on to the report from the superintendent's office.
Thanks, President Wales. Several things that have happened last couple of weeks I've already talked about, but I'll roll through several things that I think are continue to be good for me as I continue to be part of the community. I met again with West. I met again with Matt Lasser. Both of those continuing to talk about like falls and positives around the partnership and what we can continue to do to those partnerships forward. Part of the conversation with Chief West was the building that sits on the corner of our MMS property that we have not yet got across the finish line. We're closer, but not there yet. I had a superintendent meeting on Fort Morgan, and that was interesting. It's nice to go see other people's spaces, and it continues to make you proud of the spaces that you have. So for me, that's exciting. You already tonight from the admin at Roosevelt that we had a meeting this morning to talk truancy, and there was a lot of pride for me, and that's a meeting that our admin at Roosevelt called for Assistant Superintendent Kramer and myself to be a part of as learners, right? As we think about as a district, how can we continue to do a better job of having kids back in school the maximum amount of time. So I'm excited about that work, and I think that continues to be important. Thank you to all that took part last week in the candidate forum, and had a chance to watch that at a distance. But I want to just call out Jessica Diagana for all the work she did to make it happen. As the rest of us, or us, avoided being in the room, she took care of everything in the room. So I just want to honor that and say thank you, as always, for doing a great job taking care of all of us. We had a chance to meet with bosses of AB last week and have real conversations about how things are going and about some of the things that might not be up to snuff yet. And I think they're working to try to create that, so we'll pay attention and continue to learn. We talked about with Roosevelt, it's only been open 120 days. That contract with ABM is not much older than that, so I think they still have some learning to do, but I think we were pretty transparent last week about what we're hearing from our schools, and there's some right now, and so we were pretty transparent about that. Today, the three of us had a chance to go, actually, as Director Sassano said, make sure you get out and vote. The importance of leveraging that right we have as Americans. We had a chance to go today to the Weld County, visit with the Weld County Recorder, and she walked us through actually what happens from the ballots from the second they end up there all the way through the end. We got to see the whole process start to finish. It was pretty powerful to see all the work that goes in, but all the volunteers in Weld County that are helping to make sure our votes are counted but anonymous, which is pretty neat to see how that process, how solid the process is in Weld County. And that was cool to see. And the last thing I'll share with the board is we have some policies that will be coming that we want to bring forward to the board over the next, 3 to 5 meetings likely. One of them around attendance, as we continue to talk about attendance. There's some tweaks we want to make. So that's one. The testing policy we need to bring forward. There's some stuff in there that doesn't work with the opt form, so we'll bring that policy forward. But the one I wanted to just be transparent about is we have a board policy right now that requires that when we post jobs as a district, that we post 5 days external, and then we can post five days internal, and then we can post external. And I asked Christopher about 2 weeks ago to push a job out externally before the 5 days happened. And that was, for me, in result to a complaint or some that was in the system around special ed at one of our schools. And it was counterproductive to wait longer for people to post for internal, or we could post external. It made it longer before we could look at the jobs. For me, as I make a recommendation and talk as a group, I will likely bring back to the board a policy that moves us more toward, we want to honor by interviewing internal candidates, but not waiting at all before we can post for external jobs. I have a huge belief in we should be going after the best people. And if the best people are internal, we definitely ought to be looking at them. But if the best people are external, they ought to have equal access to our jobs. And so we'll look at a way where we can show that we care about our internal people. We shouldn't be waiting and putting ourselves at a detriment. And so we'll be working on a policy to bring forward. But in the process of telling you that, I also wanted to acknowledge that I moved outside of that policy 2 weeks ago just for that reason. So I just wanted to be transparent with the board. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Any questions for Superintendent Mills? All right. Thank you, sir. We will move on to the consent agenda. Our adopted, all over the place. Our rules of parliamentary procedure, Robert's rules, provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board review and recognition. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of a board member. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion by Director Proctor, a second by Vice President Sasana to accept the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none. Jessica, would you please call the board?
Monica Johnson? Yes. Amanda Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sisano?
Yes.
Jeremy Scott?
Yes.
Michael Wales?
Yes. We will move on to our old business, and this will be the second reading of the policy amendment KDB, Public's Right to Know, Freedom of Information. So this has gone through the 2-week public review process, so we can't take action on this tonight. Is there any questions or comments on the update?
We got no comments.
We'll go ahead and move that we adopt the proposed amendments to policy KDB, Public Rights to Know, Freedom of Information.
Second.
I have a motion by Reverend Scott, a second by Director Proctor to adopt proposed amendments to policy KDB. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Diagana?
Monica Johnson? Yes. Amanda Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sisano?
Yes.
Jeremy Scott? Michael Wales?
Yes. We have 2 items of special business that we need to conduct this evening. The first is the District Accountability Committee membership appointments. Superintendent Nielsen.
President Wales and board members, in accordance with state law, the membership of the District Accountability Committee, or our DAC, is ready to be appointed by this board. I do want to preface it. One of the things we did this fall was take a look at what makes sense for the DAC, and I think as you take a look at it compared to our list last year, it's about half the size. We went back to when I started to take a look and listen to the way DAC was running in the past. Some of the work, maybe much of it, was done in small groups. So the larger group breaking into smaller groups, which is tough in terms of everyone having the same information. So what we went back to is what law says we need to have. We followed that, and probably that plus a little bit. Like we've got a pretty concrete group that could do the work together. We facilitated with Jeff how we do work on our agenda items as a group rather than trying to do multiple agenda items with smaller groups. So that's the reason for the smaller group, but still representing all of our schools. I think relatively evenly too. We're not overrepresented in any one of our areas. So just preface that's the reason it looks different as at least last year. I didn't look at the year before.
I haven't looked at the DAC laws or policy or anything in a minute, but how long does KQA have to get a parent appointed to this group? Do you know?
Well, we'll take them whenever they do.
Okay.
I don't, we're not in any,
You're just
we've got
holding a
plenty of
slot,
parents
that
holding a
person.
slot for that spot. We're not out of compliance if we don't have it. We just felt as one through it made sense to try to get a parent from every school.
Yeah, makes sense.
So my only question is, under administration, I noticed there's not anybody from RHS. Is that by design, or?
As we went through that, we decided to move toward an elementary and a secondary so that we could alternate. And I mean, ultimately, it's sort of a relief to not have all of our administrators and everything. And so in this case, Aspen agreed between the two. We asked the two of them to give us one. Aspen agreed to it for the first term, and Dave will come on the second. So that's why.
I just was curious, honestly. I think the way I about it, so the DAC is how I got involved in all of this. The first meeting I went to had 40 people at it, and it was impossible to get anything done. So I like the smaller group. I think we'll get much more work done, and everybody will know what's happening because we're not breaking it out into smaller groups. So I think it's a really good idea. I also think there are a lot of people who wanted to be on the DAC from their prospective schools, as parents in particular. Each building should have a building accountability committee, and that can be a place for those parents who weren't selected from DAC to be involved. So I just want to call that out for folks that might listen later. That talk to your principal at your building. We should be having a building accountability committee where you can get some of this cascading information and maybe has been put back up that way.
That's good feedback, Director Sasano. And I can tell you the one we heard of initially was we had several volunteers. Mr. Benson from Roosevelt put an email out, and I think had 20-some people, Rex saying that 25. So he is doing exactly what he's figured out who the one is, and he's doing the rest of them as a SAC team here prior to SAC meeting. So that he's going to look at our agenda and then kind of feed forward. So that's a pretty way to do that, I think, and makes a lot of sense. So.
All right, so we need to take action and certify group of folks. Never mind, I was looking at the wrong one, but we still do. I don't know, is it certify? Approve, yeah, we certify JMA, we approve this one. That's all.
I want to make a motion to approve membership of the District Accountability Committee as presented.
I'll second.
Moved by Vice President Sasano, second by Director Johnson to approve the membership of the District Accountability Committee for this 2023-24 school year. Any discussion?
Have they already met, or is that to come? They've met once.
To review the item.
Okay.
Any options for discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Diagon?
Monica Johnson,
Yes.
Samantha Proctor,
Yes.
Nate Sisano,
Yes.
Jeremy Scott, Michael Wales.
Yes. And our second item of special business, that is the certification of JMEA membership.
President Wales and board members, the board's recognition for JMEA shall be granted each year upon receipt of evidence that more than 1% of the certified staff belong to the association. And for the current year, there is a 76% membership. You can see listed in your agenda the names of those that are accepted. And so we would ask you to take, to grant that. Or serve, thank you.
All right, any questions? Entertain a motion.
I'll move that the Board of Education join the standing of the Johnstown Pelican Education Association.
I have a motion by Reverend Scott, a second by Director Proctor to certify Johnstown Pelican Education Association membership. Discussion. Hearing none.
Johnson, yes. Samantha Proctor,
Yes.
Nate Sisano,
Yes.
Jeremy Scott,
Yes.
Michael Wales.
Yes. All right. Let's see here. Citizen comments on general topics.
That was a comment.
Any other items deemed necessary by the board?
I just want to make one quick comment, and that is to Superintendent Nielsen. Thank you for being honest with us that policy got a little wonky. That's not always been the case around here, so I appreciate that. I've been thinking about it for the last 20 minutes, whether or not I wanted to say anything about it. But thank you.
You're very welcome. Yep, you bet.
And we'll figure out the penalty here.
The repercussions.
I think it was the right move too. It's just for clarity's sake.
Always.
All right.
Just to say, I'm very grateful that tonight, well, I'm not grateful that tonight's my last regular board meeting with you all.
Yes.
I've said multiple times that if my life circumstances were different, I would have signed up for 4 more years in a heartbeat. And it's a little bittersweet, actually. I'm glad to do it here. I got to be on the design team for this building back in the day at a time. We were designing this building when this district was not functioning all that well, and this building was not honestly functioning all that well because of the leadership at the time. And yet somehow, I think one of the interesting byproducts of that is because it was, the educators had to take the lead on the design process because they were the ones that fell to. And looking back on it, I think while I wouldn't recommend it as a strategy for designing a building, I think one of the interesting byproducts was we got what we got, as amazing as it is, because our educators stepped in the vacuum that was left. That probably ought to have been filled by others. And it just, it's further demonstration that when we empower the people of this district, amazing things happen. And when the leadership gets out of the way and lets the people who are passionate their jobs and interesting things happen. I think coming into this that the work would be important and I would find meaning in it. I don't know that I expected to find this much to do. And things to be as meaningful as they are. And the things that were the most meaningful were honestly not good, and it wasn't all of that. That was urgent, and it was important. But the meaningful stuff, the stuff that I'm really grateful to get to be a part of, is the stuff that maybe seemed a little more mundane. Working on curriculum and working on those things that aren't going to last. Working on ways of taking care of our teachers and getting them raises and all of that. And the buildings will be here for a long time, and I'm grateful to be a part of that as well. But the people and the impact and the opportunity to shape not just not the space, but the spirit of the district and having an opportunity to be a small piece in that. And I think in the last 4 years, with the leadership of this board especially, we changed the spirit and the culture of this district for the better. And we brought people in who will continue that work. And I'm really grateful for the 4 of you continuing to be. And I have great faith that under your care, that things will do good. And I'm grateful to have Scott on board as well. So I will actually miss people. I will like having my Wednesday nights back. I will give you that. And my daughter, who's home alone right now, will be glad to have me home, and that's where I need to be. But I will also be here and just doing this. So, thank you for the opportunity.
Well said, Rich.
Well, yeah, thank you. You still have to come to the next meeting. I'm still,
I know I get to swear people in. I'm pretty excited.
well, no, you're still a board member until you're not.
We're not excusing
You're
your
not done
absence, is what he's saying.
Was the next meeting's a special meeting, right?
President Wells, were you going to speak to that tonight?
Oh.
The special meeting?
Yes, we can talk about that.
Well, at least make sure we're thinking we're doing it the 10th.
The 18th.
The 14th.
I have the 14th.
I think it's the
I
14th.
think
The
that's
14th.
what we're talking about.
We talked about it.
Oh, it is, yeah, it's 14th,
This is why we
Which-
cross-check.
which is a Tuesday night.
Yes,
And we will be at Elwell.
because.
And it is at 7.
It is at 7. We're going to have Elwell's musical team that's doing the Veteran Day performance. They put a lot of work into that, and we're going to give them a second billing, so they can give a second show of that. And it's a special night, so let's allow them to be a part of that and showcase what they're doing. So remember, the 18th.
It's already on my Google Calendar for the 14th.
I just want to interrupt Scott.
I was one of the parents who
So
would,
hold on,
we can't get there yet.
we have one more meeting with Reverend Scott.
Already brought it up. Yeah, regular meeting. I'm a parent watching the Zoom meetings happen during that very difficult time. And yes, I know that this will be remembered for many other things, but as a parent with student in the district watching the school board and administration and teachers navigate through COVID, it was so impressive to see the professionalism that was demonstrated, and you were a huge part of that. So thank you for all those hard decisions and everything else in between too. So yeah, you will be missed.
I will say, I appreciate your service. I will appreciate you coming to the next meeting, special or not.
Well, it was just us. I just wanted to.
I will have more to say on the subject. Anything else? Let's go ahead and adjourn at 7:52.